All right, who is ready to paint? I know I am. So first of all, before we even get started, I have to share that I am so super excited because you'll notice you're seeing things the right side up. I finally figured out how to flip this video so that you can actually see what I see. So like when I show you something, it's oriented correctly. Very excited. It's the little things in life. So to get us started today, I'm going to share a couple of my finds because I had to go to the art supply store. I had to go to my local art supply store and pick up a few things that I realized my oldest daughter, who is also an artist, she kind of has those things. So I want to share with you some of my favorite things. So this is a brush cleaner. Oh, I don't have to turn things upside down anymore. That's awesome. So this is a brush cleaner. I realized when I went to go clean my nice big brush, my Skyflow brush from the other day, I didn't have any cleaner for it. So this this stuff lasts forever, y'all. It is amazing. So it looks like this. It's this kind of hard stuff, but once it's wet, you can get it in there, clean out your brush, and it will do an amazing job at keeping your brushes nice and clean and help them last a lot longer. The nice thing is that this is good for any kind of paint. I buy this size because, frankly, that's about the biggest size that I need. It comes in a much larger size. I had no idea it came like this. It comes in like this big old giant tub. Very cool looking, mind you. However, I don't need that much of it. And it does last like an extraordinary long time. Even with using it on a regular basis. I think I had maybe used half of this. And so, my oldest has it. And then I have to share this with you because I'm going to do these. Oh, do I even have just 4? I do. Okay. Also, when I was in the art supply store, they had, okay, hold on. I'm going to have to adjust my video here, because apparently, all right, one second. And down, and down. All right, hold on. I was so excited that I had this thing flipped that I didn't consider where my camera was actually oriented. And it has this delightful ball thingy on the end. Okay, so there we go. So I was able to, when I went in there, they happened to carry my absolute favorite watercolor, Daniel Smith. And I knew I had run out of this color, but I didn't think that anybody had it, and I was going to have to order it online. This duochrome Adobe color is the bomb diggity. And of course, when I'm in there, I start looking and I notice that, I had run out of Sleeping Beauty turquoise. Here, let's see if I can get it to focus on this. It's a Sleeping Beauty turquoise genuine. Y'all, they actually use, it has turquoise in it. They use the turquoise that isn't jewelry grade to be able to produce this. So I'm very excited to be able to have this again, because I did not think I would be able to get this. So I'm going to prep these because these are amazing, and I am going to want to use this duochrome Adobe without a doubt. Duochrome Adobe. I am so excited that I found that, and these are going straight into to be able to be used. Duo. It would help if I could spell. Oh, okay, awesome. And you can't see what I'm doing. That's fantastic. Bear with me because it's funny, the weight of there it goes. The weight of the, which of course you can't see what I'm pointing at. The weight of the cable that's connected to the camera keeps pushing it down. I'm learning duochrome hibiscus because, okay, in all fairness, purple is my favorite color, so any kind of, except I can't spell this, Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty. And I also was able to pick up, I picked up some Chinese white, so I'm very excited to have that because I don't normally use a white. But every once in a while, it's a good idea to have that. I also picked up some stretcher bars because I live in Texas, and I have this crazy idea of being able to do this kind of over-the-top watercolor longhorn cow. Whatever, for whatever reason. And I am, y'all can't see that. Because my hands are in the way. Y'all, I wish you could see this color. This is just such a stunning color. So I'm going to move my hands out the way so you can see this. So, I do this with all of my paints. And I normally wouldn't sit here and have you watch me do this, although maybe I would. But I can't stand it. This is just such an amazing color, and I am wanting every bit of this. Oh, and I got myself some pliers. Where'd I put them? There we go. Y'all, this stuff is gets hard on your hands to do, and I want every bit of this paint out of this tube. And so I'm going to use this plier to squeeze out the parts that I can't squeeze with my fingers, because my fingers can only do so much. But I want every bit of that paint out of this tube. But I have to be careful because this will these pliers will punch a hole in the metal. Alright. I'm able to get a little bit more out of the paint tube. These are such amazing paints. I mean, truly, if you have an opportunity to work with some Daniel Smith watercolors, by all means, please do not hesitate. Do not pass go. Go grab them and use them. They are amazing. This color does just astonishing things. I cannot wait to show you what this looks like. So here's what it looks like when it's pulled out. I cannot wait for you to see how that is going to look on a paint. So talk for a little bit about what is it we're going to do today. So I've got a fresh canvas. Y'all saw me actually wrap that canvas. I had to rewrap it. I am going to do the standing stones. So what you're going to see today is, because, paint has to dry, what you're going to see is I'm going to get it sketched out. I'm going to mask it. So I've got my masking fluid here. And when I was talking about using masking fluid to somebody else, they were like, don't use a brush. You'll ruin it. And I was like, well, that's why I went and bought a synthetic brush. They're like, yeah, that's not going to help. I'm like, well, so I'm going to try something because they're like, just pour it on there. Yeah, okay, y'all are funny. So I'm going to try something and see how it works. So don't, y'all, if it doesn't work, it's an experiment. Sometimes painting is just that, is an experiment. Ugh, these duochrome colors are so pretty. And if I could figure out how to squeeze the last little bit out of the end of that tube, I would. Well, there is a way, I just don't paint like that, so. Yeah, look at that. Look at how pretty that is. Okay, I have me and this. And then this one, y'all, this is that Sleeping Beauty turquoise. If you have never seen this paint, it is stunning. When it dries, it looks like turquoise. It looks like turquoise jewelry. It is just amazing. It happens to be one of my absolute favorites. They have certain paints that they use natural earth pigments, and Sleeping Beauty turquoise is one of them. I think they have one called Sedona that is also if you've ever been there, it looks like the rock and the dirt from Sedona. It's astounding. I have a couple of paintings that I used where I used that color. It's just phenomenal. Again, their clarity of their color is just unparalleled in my opinion. Now, of course, obviously this is my opinion. If you have a favorite one, like I also like my Marie Blue. I think they have an excellent pigmentation to them. Obviously, otherwise I would not use them. All right, I'm going to have to set these off to the side somewhere so that they can dry, but get them out of the way. And then, y'all, this is just a basic Chinese white. So this one is nothing spectacular in terms of, you know, color. Oh, except, there we go. It's kind of got a little bit of an extra oomph for the, Oh, it does not want to come out. This one's a little harder to get out. They're not always quite so challenging to get out of the tube. Alright, now let's see if I can use my pliers. Yeah, I could not find my pliers at all anywhere. I had to go buy new ones. I find that when I organize, I've organized myself so well that I've lost things. They're somewhere. They're very secure because I can't find them. Hopefully I'm not the only one who does that. But I try. All right, let's see if I can get this to disconnect. Oh my gosh. That's kind of tight up in there, isn't it? All right, I don't like the fact that I've got some of the paint has come out. Here's a new brush that I just bought. It's a synthetic. Okay, y'all, it's a synthetic brush. I don't usually that's not something I use in watercolor, but okay, whatever. I bought it so I can use the end of the paintbrush because this needs to be mixed back together because it had some of the binder had separated out a little bit. So I'm gonna use the end of my brush here to kind of constitute that back in to the paint. White's a little tougher of a color. Lack of color, so to speak. There we go. And then I will just scrape as much as I can off onto the side. Because that will come up. I'll be able to use that. And then that will get nice and dry. So that's now all nice and mixed back in together. Sometimes your watercolors will separate in the tube. That's not a big deal. You can push them back together again quite easily. Okay. All right. All right, I need to clean up my space just a little bit. And then I will pull out. Y'all, I cannot wait. I have been waiting and waiting and waiting. I have just had this stuck in my head. And it will not, it is an image that will not leave. And that is usually, that's usually a really good sign, by the way. If you have something that you are wanting to do and it is just stuck there and it is not going anywhere, that is typically an indication that that is your next piece of artwork that you need to do. Your subconscious is telling you, hey, this is your next piece that's going to be, you're going to be, one, it's kind of a creative hit for you. And you need to get that done and get it taken care of, because if you don't, you're just going to be stuck and it's not going to go anywhere. You're going to just, your brain is going to constantly be hitting you with that. So I had some leftover organizers from my kitchen, and I'm about to use these. So I don't know if you've ever seen these. These are fantastic. They're great for using inside of a refrigerator. But I'm about to use these to set some of the stuff that is sitting on the side of my my art space in order to get it tucked away and not in the way. I'm even going to set my glass of water there so that I don't knock it over, because that would not be pleasant. Sometimes I end up with kind of random stuff on my art space, and I question where it came from and why it's there. I have Post-it notes, but I kind of know what that's from. That's from doing some other research. All right, so I still have my sample here from the other day where I used the masking fluid. I don't know if you remember when I said, okay, I'm going to have to actually really apply it better. Somebody had suggested that I use a palette knife to lay down my masking fluid so I don't end up ruining a brush, because once it gets in there and dries, it's basically stuck up in there, which is fair. I figured my brush that I had used, it would be the whole thing. I would use that all the time for it. I got all kinds of stuff up in here on my space. Why? Get that out of the way. I'm really glad you can't see the rest of my art space. All right. Let's bring in the big boy. And now you're like, what happened? It's nothing but a white screen. Yeah. Hold on for me. Give me a second. I get this pushed back and up. And you're right. Right now, it is nothing but a white space. Here, let me get this cable out of the way. The last thing I want to do is have that stuck in my paint. And now, I'm going to grab my watercolor pencils. Because we're going to sketch out this bad boy. But I want to do so in a color that makes sense. Okay, so to give you some sort of idea, I had, where's my sketch? So for those of you who remember, whoop, there we go. Here's my sketch. I want this background to be green, and this up here at the top is going to be blue. Okay, so it's going to be ground and sky. These rocks are going to be variations of grays. They'll have some greens in it. They'll have some browns in it, based on reference photos. But the ground is always green. But this sometimes on the inside of the circle is got a little bit more dirt in it. The grass isn't as thick because people walk in there. So I'm going to have some variation. So why does that matter? Okay, if I mentioned before, the way I paint, I use a lot of color theory. And in this instance, I need to make sure that whatever I use to go around to create the rocks is going to be something that's going to be reflected, okay, in the surrounding area. So, let me make sure my board is on here so that you can see almost all of it. No, why can you not see almost all of it? Hold on. It looks like my camera has adjusted itself yet again. Let's try this one more time. Let's see if I can get this angled out so that you can see the majority of the board. Okay. Y'all, this may be as good as she's going to get. Whoa, hello. Sorry, not trying to make anybody dizzy here. There. Let me even you out a little bit. Boop. Okay, that way you're not trying to look at the screen crooked. Got your head tilted off to one side. That'd be uncomfortable. Okay. So I need to make sure that when I pull this out, I'm going to go ahead and lay in this line here so that I have a point of reference, because I'd like to have. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is going to be a little challenging for you to see. I'm intentionally working white on my board. I can see it, but it's going to be very challenging for you. You can see that you know I drew a line because you saw me draw a line. But bear with me, it gets a little bit easier. And as I said, this video camera, it don't zoom in. So this is kind of where we're at, but you'll appreciate that in just a second. So I'm going to get this drawn in, and I think I like that as my line there. I've got my reference sketch off to the side, and I'm going to switch over to a green. Actually, I'm going to switch over to kind of a neutral. What is this? This is an earth green, so it's kind of a neutral gray-green, because what I need is, I need a circle. Yeah, I'm drawing a circle on top of a circled surface. So I'm going to put this here. So here's the front edge. This will be the front edge. This will be the back edge. And you know what? I'm not going to be able to do that. I've got to come down further. I've got to bring this closer to you. So we're going to have, I want those standing stones to be a lot closer in your view. All right, so now that I've got my circle, I can come in with my green and I can kind of do my sketch. And again, these are rough. I do not need something to be perfect right now. These are going to be much larger because they're closer to you. And these all have this kind of same, similar, it's interesting when I've looked at a lot of the pictures. So this just kind of gives me an idea. They're just of varying sizes. You know, you'll have some that'll be real tall. You'll have some that are, they're broken, right? They're not, they've been weathered. Okay. And then I'm going to have the ones off to the side are kind of the ones that I want to really have that larger, have that kind of larger frame. And this one's going to have some kind of broken at the top so that you can tell that it was a larger stone, but it's kind of weathered at the top. I'm going to get my center piece over here. I want to show that I had a little bit of a rock, like a standing stone that's just out of view here. I'm going to have this rock is one that's going to have come off to the side. I'm not going to be able to see the top or the side, so I'm going to have to use a shadow here to really help me show that this is a three-dimensional object, not flat, okay? Because from this angle that I've got this from, I've got to make sure, like if I'm standing here, okay, I can see the top of this one. I'll be able to see the top of this one. I'll be able to see the top of that. But these in the background, I'm not going to really be able to see the tops of. Okay, and so I want another larger one. I'm going to set it over here. I'm going to set my larger one. Now, notice that this is based on standing stones. I am not drawing this from, I used several reference images. There's not a set of standing stones that look exactly like this. Okay, let's be real. This is a symbol of, okay, and I want this one to be really tall. Okay, so I'm going to come up into here. All right. And then I'm going to have, let's get me another, they're often not quite super close together, so let's get another one in here. That's kind of short. And then one that's about mid-size. Tucked in behind that one. I'm not going to be able to see the top, but I will be able to see some of the side. Okay, so that gives me a general layout. And again, you know, something like this, it's not super complicated. It is, the design isn't super complicated. A lot of times if I have something that's really, really complicated that I'm wanting to do, I sketch at a smaller scale, okay? So I have some of these that I've been working on and kind of sketching out. Like I didn't finish this one. I end up kind of working this and mapping this out at a larger scale. St. Bridget's cross kind of sketched out. These are taken from a book on the curbstone and the entrance stone at Newgrange. They had a sketch, so I'm going to use that sketch, but I'm not going to use this whole piece. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to be capturing the image and projecting that image onto my canvas, where I will sketch out my design straight from a photograph. I kind of like doing that. I like taking the original image from the rock itself. Unfortunately, the Newgrange curbstone and this curbstone are very difficult to translate onto a canvas at scale, so having a sketch is going to make a world of difference for me being able to kind of line out what I want it to look like. And it's going to allow me to move it around. So that's the other thing, is that I'll be able to scale this to get the section that I want. Like I really am looking for this piece, this portion of this right here. Although I like having that triangle. So this may be slightly off center. I may end up trying to capture that triangle. And anytime I've got an image that's already circular in nature, this is from the Book of Kells, and it blowing it up can become a challenge to make sure that it's actually inscribed inside the circle. I used to be a designer, and I used to have the tools to be able to replicate this. I'd use AutoCAD. But back in the day, we didn't have AutoCAD when I first got started, and I had tools that I would use. Well, it doesn't really work on this, so, and I don't have them anymore. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to need to do is I need to mask out my stones. So I'm going to shake this up. Now, I had somebody suggest using a palette knife, which I find somewhat laughable and kind of funny. However, not a bad idea, and this is the palette knife I have that will fit. So this stuff is kind of crazy, and it gets kind of foamy. So I'm going to try this. So you're watching an experiment in progress. Because it's because I shook it up, obviously, that it's all foamy. And the foam is not going to help me at all. And I'm going to try to get right up to my line. Now, here's the thing. The way that I work, this is not an exact science. It is okay if it is if it's not 100% precise. I am much more of an abstract artist than I am a realistic artist. So anything that is it's not going to be perfect. I'm not looking for perfect. That is one thing that I have learned over the course of not only my lifetime, but in painting. It's the crazy little mistakes that end up happening. They end up being blessings in disguise, right? It's a challenge. It gives me that opportunity to do something or to experiment in a way that I would not have otherwise. All right, well, the suggestion to use a palette knife wasn't half bad. And because I have such a large area to cover, I thought about trying to use a spoon in order to spread it around, because I need to make sure that I have good coverage. like everywhere there's a bubble in here is an opportunity for paint to seep through. And I do not want any other color in here. Now, if it happens, can I clean it up? Yes, I can clean it up. But I'd like to prevent it as much as possible. All right, I feel like I've got decent coverage on that. Let's go to the next one. So y'all, I'm so excited to finally be able to paint. I have been dying. I've got paints that I've been curing so that I can use them. And part of my job, I've got a certification I'm going to get over the summer. So I am been working on that while I wait for my paints to dry and for me to have everything I needed to get started. And to be honest, because I cannot get this image of this longhorn out of my head. You know, it's got this green background, which again, that's what another reason I'm going to need this masking tape for. It's got this very green, vibrant, you know, layered green background. Almost like it's blurred out, if you will, if it was a realistic photo. And then this very colorful version of the longhorn, with his face and the horns. I'm dying to see if I can do the image in my head justice, because I am not a realistic painter. I never have been. Can I do it? Yeah. If you make me, I can do it. But it is definitely not me gearing to my strengths. It's definitely me stretching myself, because since it's not something that I enjoy doing, I don't spend a lot of time honing that craft of paying that close of attention. This is going to sound kind of strange, but you know, realistic artists, you have to, they're going to notice every single detail. I don't. I notice the things that are inherent in making something appear to give you that sense that it's there. I'm not looking for it to be an exact replica. I'm not looking to have you go, oh my gosh, that looks just like the standing stones at fill in the blank. That's not my goal. My goal is for you to look at it and go, oh, hey, those are standing stones. Not to be and then, so this is one of the things. So painting is one of my absolute passions in life. It's something I had to put away for many, many years, and that's okay. I do not regret any of those decisions that I made that resulted in me having to put this away. It was needed in my life, and I guess that's where my second big passion comes in, which is, you know, is helping people. It's one of the reasons why I went into education instead of staying in design after I had my kids. Is that being able to take, you know, your own life experience and how you overcame your own challenges and the research that I've done, because research is a thing for me. I like going out and seeking, how do I do this and how do I make this work, and is there a better way? And if there's a better way, yeah, bring it on, please. Y'all, I may need a giant tub of masking fluid. Either that or I'm putting this on too thick. So this is not something I normally do. And my art is pull masking fluid. So this is kind of an experiment for me. So we'll see. We're looking at this going, oh my gosh, you're using like way too much. Whatever. I know when I didn't use enough, it left an opening, and I didn't like that. So pull that off to the side. Well, this palette knife was a great idea. I need to tell my daughter that. Thank you very much. But part of the other thing that I do is I have, over the years, just in terms of being able to help myself, I'm a group coach, I'm a herbalist, I'm an aromatherapist. I believe that there's a way for us to take our own mental health and physical health into our own hands. Not that doctors aren't helpful. They're extremely helpful. But I think I have a responsibility, according to the tenets of Chinese medicine, I'm responsible for my own health. I'm responsible for what I choose to do and don't do. I'm not a doctor. They can give recommendations. But a lot of it is rooted in our emotional well-being. And when that's out of whack, we end up with disease and dis-ease, right? We end up with, whether you want to consider it to be circumstances or just the way we choose to cope with whatever it is that we're dealing with. And a lot of times painting was a way for me to deal with that when I was younger. It allowed me to express myself. This was my happy place. Because I get a lot of joy from painting. So, this also lets my brain think and process. I have a course that I'm wanting to create and do. So we'll see. My mind is telling me that's what I need to do, but it terrifies me. So I've learned that if it makes me uncomfortable, if it makes me nervous to do that thing, that my brain and heart are going, hey, you need to. That usually means that that's what I need to do. It's one of the reasons why I started doing this. All right, y'all, this is starting to dry. I don't know if you can see. I'm getting squigglies here. Hold on. Get that mask out, that last little one over there off to the side. All right, so as you can see, I've got pretty decent coverage. I'm not too concerned. And for those of you what I was talking about, see how it's starting to dry on the palette knife. So I'm going to close this. Sweet Lord, that is a lot. I used quite a bit of that. And it'll dry on here, and then I'll be able to peel it off since it's a palette knife. So I'm going to pause the video because obviously we are not going to sit here and watch paint dry, or masking fluid in this case, dry. But once this is dry, y'all, it is on like Donkey Kong. So part of what I'm going to do is, once this is dry, I want this to be greens, some browns, and I'll go through the process of kind of explaining the way that I paint. Because I mentioned that I use color theory. I don't paint like most watercolor artists. My paintbrush, okay, is not the Skyflow brush that you saw. It happens to be a trash bag. So if that has piqued your interest, stick around, come back. I'm going to pause this. Obviously, in the background, you can hear my laundry's done. So while this dries, I'm going to take care of some business, come back, and then we'll get started on how it is that I paint. I can't wait to see what this is going to look like, y'all. I'm very excited. All right, so I'll see y'all in a few. Okay, I came back to check on the status of the masking fluid. Ew, okay. Left me a masking fluid booger up in there. Ew. And I can see places where there's holes. And I do not want that. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to go back over some of these places in an attempt to hopefully fill in some of these, because I don't want, I really don't want green in some of these. If I do, I want to put it in there. I don't want it in there because it's in there because I didn't do a good job of masking. So I'm going to make sure here that this is covered up. Like this one, you can, that one has some serious coverage issues. So I'm going to see if I can't add some more masking fluid over the top of this. This may or may not be a mistake. As I mentioned before, when I could see all the little bubbles, it's like, yeah, this is going to end up being a bit of an issue in here. And sure enough, is exactly what it looks like. It looks like the bubbles popped and it did not cover. So I'm going to go over some of this. The palette I worked out beautifully. Oh my gosh, I was able to pull this off dry, straight off the palette knife. This time around when I do that, I'll let you see it because it is a little it's kind of satisfying. Not gonna lie, it was a little satisfying. And of course I'm wearing the wrong glasses, so my eyesight is challenging. And look, and now that it's dry, I can see some places that I didn't get good coverage on, going around some of the spaces. Let's even that out a little bit. It's all right. Nice. That one looks good. That side looks a little questionable right here. And then use the palette knife to kind of smooth that over. And come over here. Let's extend that. It doesn't want to kind of come over there. There we go. This, oddly enough, looks pretty good. But this one is a little atrocious here. Let's... So one of the things about having a studio that's really nice, that I don't have as much space here since I'm not operating out of a studio, or a larger studio, I should say. Not all studios are large. A larger studio is that while this is happening, I could be working on something else, but I do not have the space to be able to do that. Well, okay, I sort of do, but I have other things that I have to do with this space. So I cope, and it's all right. And going a little bit of all right. I think that will then give me some of the coverage that I'm looking for. All right, guys, I just saw a whole side right here that I didn't even get coverage on. All right, kind of the downside of not using a actual paintbrush is that it doesn't go into all the little nooks and crannies. Okay, now we'll let this dry. Yay! And then hopefully I should be able to paint. I can't stand it. I'm so excited. All right, well, we'll let that dry and then we'll come back and see where we're at. Yeah, okay, so I have no patience. That still needs to dry, so this in here still needs to dry. However, I can start pulling my paint out that I know I'm going to need, and so I can kind of showcase some of that for you. So I know that I want a variety of greens to give me some depth in this bottom, and I'm going to pull, so I'm going to set these out right here. So I've got some Doc Martin greens that I know I want to use. And then I'm going to come back. Now, what you can't see is that behind me, well, actually, maybe I can show you. So here, let's see. Oh, no. Okay, hold on. Hold on. I can show you. I just have to loosen a piece here. All right, sorry for the, there you go. Hi. All right, now it's upside down because I flipped the camera. Okay, so, but here, and there, and up there, and then back here, I have paint that I've laid out. So, sorry about that. I had flipped the camera so that you can actually see things correctly when I'm actually painting. I'm going to come and pull some of the greens that I want because I want a variety. I want some things that are kind of dark. I want some things that are nice and vibrant and bright. And the more variation I have, the better. I'm going to pull in kind of even like a green yellow because, again, I want variety. I want some dark areas. I want some light areas. And this is going to help me achieve that. But I also know that I'm going to want a little bit of brown in here in places, but I don't want something super, super dark. So kind of looking through some of what I have. I'm going to add a brown. I could go in and with an orange, and that orange and green will kind of mix up with a little bit to make kind of a brown. And it'll give me a nice highlight. So I'm going to come back in with some of this. I think this is gamboge. Oh, another one that I didn't actually label. Awesome. All right. So the Doc Martens, I just have to shake really well. Okay. And then my other paints here, hold on, let me see if I can get this to move off to the side so that you can see this here. So I've got a mouse here so that I can control my computer. And about what I'm about to do, I'm going to need to move it. And the last thing I need is for that bad boy to get wet. Okay. I have a sprayer, okay, that I use that's filled with water. And it's going to allow me to get the color in here to activate and generate some paint for me. So I use this a lot of the same way. So I use my paint that I've put in here in a lot of ways the same way that I use a Doc Marten. Doc Marten is a highly intense colors. I get a lot more bang for my buck, if you will, doing that. These, the less water I put in, the more intense the color will be. The more water I put in, the lighter it will be. It's kind of a nice little, a handy little trick to have on hand. Because I can control some aspects of my watercolor prior to even putting it onto my canvas. Then here's what I do. So I'm going to give you a little prep before I do, a little talk before we get to that point, because this is still very, very wet. Mentioned a minute ago that I use a trash bag, and I do. I use a trash bag to paint with. I find that it is extraordinarily beneficial at mixing my paint. So I'm going to show you one that I've used to make something else. So my trash bags will have, the paint will stick to some of the trash bag. You can see the ridges and the ripples here, and those ridges and ripples are part of what I create in order to blend and move color on the canvas. I like the impression it leaves behind. It gives me a great deal of texture, and I can control that. So I can control if I have things going this way, or if I scrunch it up in here, I'll get layers there. If I stop here at this line that I've created as a skyline, then the paint stops there. There won't be anything over that side. There'll be a little bit of a bleed there, but that's 100% okay. I can control that afterwards. I use a lot of printmaking techniques when I paint with watercolor. So I keep things like, I got a moment. I got to move some stuff out the way. I stack things up off to the side, so I have all my research, all my books on the floor at my feet. But it is preventing me from accessing my little box of goodies. So I have big bubble wrap. So you can see this will leave an impression into the paint, which is awesome. Anybody, I don't always, I look for things that are expensive. I look for things that are cheap to use. So drywall tape, I save the bubble wrap that comes in packages. Although they don't really use that anymore. They use those big weird air bubble thingies, and that's not helpful. So, but I have, you can use, bubble wrap over and over again. I use drywall tape, so if anybody's never seen that, it's sticky. Okay, so here, let me get those. Which direction? There you go. It's kind of sticky, so it'll stick down to your surface. And the nice thing about doing this is that when you're finished, obviously it's now a color, but I can play with this. I can adjust it. I can pull off strands. I can use this in doing collage work. It's really quite nice. Now they make, you can get plastic, it's called plastic canvas. It's some sort of embroidery wool needleworking thing. And they also come in different shapes. You can use that. I've used doilies before, of all things. Okay, I'm finding stuff in my bin that doesn't belong. So I have a 6-year-old. So look what I just found. Okay, how awesome would that be to make a piece of art with a bunch of googly eyes? We have this habit in the house of putting googly eyes on things in the refrigerator to surprise people. So maybe I hid those on purpose. And then palm. So yes, welcome to having discovering things that are in your art drawer that you didn't expect to find. But I keep a set of trash bags. So as you see, this is it's a plain old trash bag. Nothing special about it. You can use white ones. You can use clear ones. Clear would be kind of cool. I would then really be able to really see the color and how it's moving on the canvas with clear ones. I'm just so used to working with the white ones that I just use the white ones. Force of habit, I guess. So I'm going to make sure. So I just got this one. So I don't know if you can see on this side, because there's some bubbles right there. Right here, you can see kind of a concentration of pigment. So you want to make sure that you're shaking that. That means these were left on their side. And you want to shake it until that's gone. Because you're wanting to mix that pigment up. And I can still see some. So like in this corner right here, I can still see there's a little bit of pigment there. It's hard to see with all those little bubbles, at least on the camera. And you want to get that nice and shaken up really well so that you don't see that anymore. And there you go. I know you're seeing lots of bubbles, but I'm not seeing the pigment stuck onto the side the way I was. Here's one that I've had for a while. And you kind of start to look and inspect. So you can start to see through the glass that you can tell that there's no pigment stuck to the sides, which is what you're looking for. You don't want to see that pigment. Like here, I can see that the pigment is all on this side. I should be able to see through it. It's glass. It should be more clear than what I'm seeing. So I'm going to shake this one up. So it'll give me some variety. So again, I'm looking at this in terms of color theory and how colors mix together. So I know that my darker green plus a lighter green plus even this kind of more yellow green will give me some variation. Adding in that little bit of orange will also give me some variation in there because that's that yellow and red. So what happens? So you want to go back to your color theory. So I know that when I add green is made from blue and yellow being mixed together. If I add yellow, I'm going to lighten it. But what happens when I add orange into that green? So for those of you who are not super familiar and with color theory, let's see if I can do this. Where's the paintbrush? Here's one of my brushes, and let me grab a cup so I can put some water in it. In the event some of you are not familiar with color theory, some of you probably are if you're watching this, but maybe you're not. I do not wish to assume. All right, let me get a little bit of water in one of these so I can clean a brush in between. So if I come in and I take green, right, and I set it on here, okay. If I add yellow to this, and I've got a yellow green over here, so that's what I'm going to use. If I add that to it, I get a lighter green. Yes, that's kind of what I would expect to see. But do you know what happens when you add? This is a kind of a yellowy orange. So what happens when I add that? Is it going to give me a nice pretty color, or is it going to become mud? Right? And that's kind of where the question becomes that you want to know. Okay? I get a little bit of a muddy green, right? It looks like somebody added a little bit of dirt into my grass. So let's see how well that works. Okay? And guess what? That's what I want. So it becomes a function of how well do you know your color wheel? How well do you understand what happens when these things start to mix together, and being able to move them around in order to give me a variation of lights and darks. Now, I don't use a paintbrush to do my mixing, okay? I use a trash bag. This, when you use a paintbrush, gives me very smooth, right? I can control and move this around, and I have a great deal of control, right? But it always generates this very smooth surface, and I can use things like salt, and I can come in and with a different color and give myself the variation and the subtleties, and I can spend hours coming back in and go working wet into wet to give me some ridges, to give me texture, 100%, okay? That is very traditional watercolor to be able to do that, to use those techniques from wet to wet, to working, then coming in and waiting until that dries, and then coming in and adding in a wash, adding in layers. I can add in alcohol to give me some additional texture. I can add salt to give me texture. So those are all things that that traditional watercolor does, okay? And they're beautiful techniques. You can get these gorgeous flows, okay? But I don't work like that. What I do is I use printmaking techniques. So I use that trash bag. So this will be very, very wet when it's on the canvas. And because it's on canvas, I get a little bit more time than when I'm working on paper. Okay. My water is green. It's not fully clear anymore. And so I can take and use as a printmaking technique, which is why you're going to see that I have paper towels underneath my table, under my work surface, because I want to protect my floor, because this is a very wet process. And when I take the trash bag and lay it out, and I'm going to be going this way across, okay, because I'm wanting to create this very, textured surface here, okay. The paint is going to then go over the sides and hit my table, okay? And I don't want it to then run onto the floor. I want it to stay on the table. And so therefore, I've got these paper towels underneath my surface. It's going to be very, very helpful. So in this instance, I want this to be very, very textured, okay? So I'm going to use that printmaking technique. I'm going to use the trash bag to give me this very textured, and it will also blend, right? Because I'm going to use that trash bag and I'm going to manipulate it in order to give me this idea of something that is round here, okay, around these standing stones, and then up to smoother, okay, as it gets further away, and then very highly textured up at the front, and to blend my colors. So I can pull, I already know that when I lay out color, I have to lay it going this way because I'm going to be pulling color predominantly across the painting, not from bottom to top. So if I want anything to maybe look like it's snaking up off to this side, I'm going to have to come back in and manipulate that trash bag so it pulls upwards. So those things determine where I'm going to locate color. Okay, I'm going to have some lights and some darks down in here. So I lay my paint very purposefully. I'm going to even incorporate some brown in a few places. My kind of baseline green, a little bit of a lighter green, is going to go across the top because I want that to be smoother. I want it to be more uniform. I want the majority of my texture where it's up close for the perspective. And then when I'm going to lay that out, I'm going to let it dry. And I've got this listed here, which is very difficult for you to see, but that's okay. I have a line across here that's going to allow me to give me a place to stop, because from here up, I want to see sky. I want to generate blue. I'm going to have far less texture in it, but I can also incorporate, once it's dry, I can then go back over and work in it. So you're going to be able to see that as well. So I'm excited to be able to share this with you, because normally when I've done this before, there's people, so it's done live. So this is kind of cool. So I hope that that helps. So my paint is getting prepped and ready while this still dries, because that's still really wet, and that's all. So this is all still very, very wet. So we're going to give this a minute and then we will come back. So I'll see you shortly. All right, guys, well, this was a little bit of a longer pause than I had anticipated on needing to take, given how that went. Oh, hello. So let's see what we can do. So first off, I need to switch out my glasses because I just sat down and realized that, why am I having such a hard time seeing? Because I'm not wearing the right glasses. All right. So I mentioned before that I use a trash bag. No. Oh, okay, so this is going to be intriguing. Well, all right. That's going to be fun. A fun little hiccup, which is that the masking fluid likes to stick. All right, so this technique that I shared with you, a lot of times people will use, sometimes use saran wrap as well as a possible option. But as I mentioned, I like a trash bag. First of all, it's cheap, which, you know, it's nice to at least have something that doesn't cost a fortune as an artist. I'm going to see if I can't get my trash bag to cut for me. I can get my scissors to function. All the way down to the very bottom edge, which is sticking. And I'm kind of glad you can't see this. It doesn't want to cut for whatever reason. Yeah, there. All right, and then since I know that this is sticking, I'm going to move this up a little bit so that I have a little bit of space on my actual table to cut this open. I realize you can't see what I'm doing here. I'm kind of off camera. Cutting up my trash bag. So this is just kind of a step that has to happen prior to me putting paint onto the canvas, and for whatever reason these scissors do not want to function for me the way they should. You know, like actual pair of scissors. Sometimes over time these blades get really weak, and they don't necessarily always like to do. There it goes. There it goes. That's what I was looking for. A nice smooth stroke all the way across. And I end up with, remove some of the stuff that I picked up off the way. Move that out of the way. And you're going to end up with, I know you can't see what I'm doing, but there you go. You're going to end up with a nice big trash bag that's open as it sticks to my masking fluid. So that's going to be some funness. So as I mentioned before I had to stick a pin in it, so to speak. All right, I have juiced up my paint. So we're going to swirl, get these all good and swirled around so they've had a little bit more time to sit than I would like. So my color is going to definitely be some really intense color. And I got to reshake my Doc Martens. All right, so I'd mentioned before that when you do this, I'm looking at where I want darks and where I want lights. And where I want those darks and where I want those lights is going to determine where my paint colors go. And I've got a little bit of a brown off to the side. So I'm going to stand up for this, even though you can't see me standing up. But because I'm also a little concerned about that bag wanting to stick. That kind of makes me a little nerves there. I like to spray my surface with a little bit of water. And so you should be able to see that now. Any kind of paint residue that kind of comes off or has come off is going to show up. And here we go. I've got some of my Doc Marten. I like this because this allows me to do individual placement. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to place, I want that color in there. I'm going to want to see it in here and there. That's a lighter green. So this is a grass green. So this is an even brighter green. I'm going to want that to kind of come right in here as well. Notice I don't have to use a lot of this. Okay. It's not a necessity. Then I've got this kind of olivey green. I'm going to want some of that in as well. Again, the more variation in color I can provide, the more variation I'll get. And then I've got a more liquid green. So there's a lot more water, right, in this than there is in the other. And I'm going to want more water than that. So by adding more water into this, I'm lightening up the color a little bit. But I also know that I want this to be a dominant fixture. And so I'm going to put a little bit of that. Is going to be a little bit of this in kind of everywhere. Okay, so I'm okay with there having been a lot more. Now, I know I'm going to want some variety, a little bit of lights in some places, but not a whole lot. A little bit of variation by bringing in this. And I'm going to pull that color in over here as well. Okay. Now, one of the things you're going to note is that because I've already put water down, so when I add some additional water over the top, now here's where the fun begins. I need that nice and moist and wet, okay? Just because of the way that I paint. And then I'm going to set my paints off to the side so I don't accidentally knock them over. Okay, and this is going to be wash number 1. Now I've already figured out that this is it likes to stick. Okay, now we're going to manipulate. Okay, where I want lines, where I want paint. I'm going to smooth this in. I know I've got a line that I'm apparently obscuring a little bit. That's okay too. And now I get to blend. So now I'm going to be blending my colors. I know it wants to kind of stick. Ooh, having added water over the top has made a huge, delightful difference in this. So see where I can see that yellow? I want that nice and blended in. But I want this to be wrapped around here. Bring this down. Again, wherever I have these lines, it's going to pull color from wherever that is in and around. So I want to make sure that's smooth. Now, I only have some paper towels up here, but I do not. So part of what I'm going to do, oops, is I want to wipe off some of this excess paint that's gone up above my line that I do not want. But I just learned I got to be careful because this started to pull away from my masking fluid right there. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit. So I don't know if you can see right here, some of that masking fluid is here. Oh, and for those of you who noticed, yes, I did. I went and got my nails done. I figured this was going to take a while. And so wherever I've got a spot here, I want to make sure that I have good coverage. And then this is now then the waiting game, because once this is laid down, I can come back and add in additional layers, right, of color over the top of this. I can choose to do that by coming back in and doing another layer like this, or coming in with the watercolor crayons or the watercolor pencils and giving additional definition and adding detail like grass, right? I'll come in and add texture for grass, and I'll do that with a watercolor pencil. But this is going to give me that initial really good foundation, and I want that nice crisp line at the top. If I wanted to, I could go in and add that blue, which may not be a bad idea. You know what? Let's do that. Let's do it. Let's just do it. And you know what I'm going to do? All right, so guys, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use this bad boy. So can you see how there's color already on here? When I use this, some of this color is going to transfer onto that. Now, I didn't have my blues prepped, so what that means is I'm going to add some water, and I want to make sure that you're actually really getting to see this. So I'm going to move my camera just a little bit for you, and I'm going to come over to my Doc Martens, and we're going to work predominantly with those, okay? So I'm going to come in here, and that's got a little bit of a green in it. I don't want that. So this is an ultra blue, so this is a very dark blue. I'm just going to run a line right there. True blue. And we're going to just do this in the layer of color. Okay, I'm not going to worry about too much blending going on here because I just want some variation in blue. And then this is turquoise blue, y'all. This turquoise blue is to die for. It is a beautiful color. And so I'm going to lay that out. I want that in there as well. Okay. And then because I am taking something that has other colors on it and it's watercolor, once it's wet, it is going to also take on that other color, but I need to add a little bit more water because it's really still wanting to stick to the, go. And so you'll start to see where it's going to want to attempt to transfer some of that. Now this, I don't have quite as much. You'll notice I don't have quite as much plastic to go around, so to speak. And so the amount of variation I'm going to get is limited. So I'm going to pull this one. This one is going to have this kind of, there we go, get a little bit of structure. But this is going to have far less dimension up here than down here. And wherever you see a bubble, it's going to be flat. And in this instance down here, I don't really want bubbles. I want really good, I want some good texture all the way across. I don't want any real flat spaces. I want some good texture. I'm okay, and that looks pretty good. So we're going to leave that. So when we come back, this will have dried, and so you're going to get your fingers dirty. So if you're afraid to get your fingers dirty, then painting is not necessarily going to be your thing. We're going to come back. I'm going to stop this video at this point because it takes time, right? And when the next video will be kind of the reveal, and then I'll talk about, once that's done, like how I make the decisions about pulling this color, doing that color, lightening things up, making things darker. Because again, this is just an initial wash. So think of it like that first layer of paint that you do. But I'm able to already start blending color, putting color where I want it, getting lights and darks where I want it. Because I can already tell, like, this is going to be a nice dark, this is going to be lighter, and I may want to lighten. I'm going to have to come back in and lighten some of this. But because this has had some reds and some pinks and some browns underneath it, I'm going to get some variation in color up here in my sky. That because I started nice and clean, I'm going to get nice, clean, pure green and kind of that greenish yellow mixture in here. And then like part of what I'm seeing is the masking fluid underneath, which is just fine. But I'm going to get some really good color variation under here. And then that's going to give me a place to start to be able to really get in here and dive into this painting. So I'm really excited by this. So I will see you in the next video where we kind of have this unveiling of what this piece looks like once it's dry. But that takes a hot minute. And none of us want to sit here and stare at one another while we watch paint dry. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. So I will see you in the next video. Have a tremendous day today. And I can't wait to see what this looks like. So if we're lucky, it'll be a little bit later today. Y'all have a good one.